All right. For those of you who've been listening over the last few weeks, then you know June was Universal Right Publications LLC month. All of my guests in June have been on the advisory board or members of the advisory board of Universal Right Publications, including yours truly. So we are on the advisory board of that company, that publishing company. So all of the advisory board members who are accomplished and published themselves in one way or the other have been guests on the show. And my guest this morning is another advisory board member. As a matter of fact, she's the youngest advisory board member that we have on the team. And I was talking to her a couple of minutes before we went on the air. And she told me she was 18, going to be 19 in September. So she's like 18 and 3/4, somewhere around there. Because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who is 92. She told me she was 92 and a half, that she was going to be 93 shortly. I was like, ooh, go ahead now. 92 and a half. So I guess my guess this morning is 18 and 3/4, somewhere around there. May not be exactly mathematically correct, but it's close. But in any event, I've known her since she was a little girl. And ever since I've met her and known her, she was always a precocious and brilliant child. Matter of fact, almost like a child prodigy. Because just absolutely from the time, she was little, she was like talking and researching and reading about things that were way beyond her scope. But see, again, my guest this morning is proof that the way we do school may not be necessarily the most efficient and effective way, because we band kids by age group instead of by ability level. So we put kids in, okay, if you're 7 or 8, you should be in 2nd grade. And if you're 9, you should be in 3rd grade. And if you're 10, you should be in 4th grade. See, that's kind of like the way we do school. And a lot of times we have some kids who are beyond their age category that actually could be, even though they're 8 or 9, could be in a grade level that's 2 or 3 grade levels ahead. Well, that was the case with my guest. And ultimately, she did get skipped. And she is now like in her 2nd or 3rd year in college, because she started college like at 15, 16, somewhere around. Like I said, I told you she's 18, getting ready to go on 19 in September. So what I have here, I'm just telling you what I know, but I'll read what I have on the LinkedIn bio. Interests spanning across multiple disciplines, including climate, environmental sciences, aerospace engineering, oceanography, media, neuroscience, animal sciences, agricultural, and art, animation. And the thing is about her bio is it's not an exaggeration. These are the kind of things that Cheyanne was interested in whenever she was little, when she was like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And it's just carried on. So as her role on the advisory board member, she's a junior ambassador. She helps to advise the marketing, social media, and management sectors of UWP LLC. That's me and Allison. She works with me and Allison on the marketing and the social media piece, working with distinguished professionals within the academy, nonprofits, and government, helping to update website information, reaching out to those interested in publishing and writing. So that is her role on the advisory board, as she's a junior ambassador and our youngest advisory board member on Universal Right Publications. Welcome to the Reading Circle microphones, Cheyanne Rosier. Cheyanne, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Medley.
All right, now for today, Cheyanne, and since you're 19, pretty much, for the most part, give it a couple days here or there. You can call me Mark. Don't worry about it. All right. So we could drop the formalities. You can call me Mark. We're fine with that. So as I was saying, in terms of Cheyanne, whenever she was a youngster, and she's still a youngster. I mean, that's the thing. She's still a youngster, but she's always kind of been ahead of the game. Whenever I was writing, I think it was her recommendation for LinkedIn. I'm almost sure it was hers, because I wrote a few. When I was in the Air Force, whenever we got promoted ahead of time, they call that below the zone. Like you got promoted below the zone. In other words, there was a recommended amount of time you had to be in a position before you got promoted. But if you did that ahead of time, that was called below the zone. Well, Cheyanne has always been below the zone. She's always moved ahead of the game, below the zone. So Cheyanne, let's talk a little bit about that, going back to your childhood, kind of like what in your mind or memories, what has always driven you?
Probably my parents. I mean, When you're that little, you don't really know that you're smart, or like, you know that you're smart, but you don't really know that you need to go beyond. You don't know that you need to be skipped. You're just kind of going with the flow. But my parents sort of recognized that I needed more. I needed to be in a more advanced environment. And so they always pushed me to do more and do what I was capable of.
And all right, so now you bring up an argument as an educator that we constantly have. Now, I had a doctor on my show a few months ago, and we kind of got into the debate about the role of parenting. In some instances, and I understood what he was saying, that sometimes a parent can do all they want to do and the kid still doesn't do anything. But what I just heard from you was, well, my parents did push me and I did follow their lead.
Right.
So how did that make you feel? Did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on you, or were you following your dream, or did you feel like you were following your parents' dreams, or what was going on in your mind? Like, oh my God, this is something mom or dad wants me to do again. I'm going to do it. Or was it like, you know what? Hey, I like this too. I want to do this.
At that point in my life, I just was sort of going with the flow. I mean, I remember that day we had just moved to Florida. It was my maybe first day of second grade. And I remember just the teachers coming in and saying, hey, you're going to be in a new classroom today. And I just went with it. And it never really felt out of place. There were times sort of later on when I sort of realized that, oh, okay, these people around me are different from me. They're older than me. But at that time, it just felt sort of normal. It was just school.
Now, see, that's an interesting point you just bring up, because you were now, okay, when you actually, okay, a couple of things. You moved around a little bit and you kind of got used to starting in different schools, but now you were moving to a different age category. How many grades did you go ahead, 1 or 2?
I think I did 2.
So you went ahead 2 grade levels, and now you were challenged with keeping up with not only dealing with the different age groups, you were also challenged with keeping up with the work.
Right.
So,
and interestingly enough, I think keeping up with the different age group was more difficult. In terms of work, I felt like I was right where I needed to be. Nothing was too hard. I felt like I was learning along with the rest of the class. I didn't feel like I was falling behind. But in terms of maturity levels, that's sort of where things kind of were an issue.
Now, see, that's where my parents, because at the time when I was coming through, I was one of those little geeky smart kids too. But my parents didn't do the skip thing because their concern was the maturity aspect of what you just described. However, I can remember being in second grade in terms of reading, being put in a third grade class doing reading block to read with the third graders. So I was put ahead doing language arts or reading time in second grade to third grade. And I also remember in eighth grade, it was like really crazy because I get to eighth grade, I get settled in, love my classmates. I had these nice, young, vibrant teachers, loved all of them. They were all men. I loved all, they were great. And then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 weeks into the school year, I get this notice from the principal that I was being moved because I was going to the smart class. I was going to the class where the top kids in the building were. And I went from these young, vibrant men to these 80, 90-year-old women, all 3 of them. Well, the language arts teacher, the math teacher, and the social studies teachers, all 3 of them. Miss Murphy, Miss Pullis, and Miss Schulman. I can see them as I talk. But I went from these young, vibrant men to these 3 senior citizen women. But I tell you what, it was one of the best experiences. And I cried for 2 weeks. I literally did. I cried. I mean, I cried for 2 weeks that I didn't want to go to that class. And everybody, Mark is the best thing for you. You know, this is going to move you. And I wound up being valedictorian in 8th grade. But, and again, it was thanks to Miss Murphy, Miss Pullis, and Miss Schulman. It was thankful for those 3 women. But it wound up being for my greater good, even though that I dragged and hesitated to be moved out of the, I guess, average or normal class to the advanced class. So I'm saying all that to say, when now you were being propelled or pushed to do that, back to my question I had a couple of minutes ago, is that something like you wanted to do, or like I went kicking and screaming and it ultimately worked out for my good? Did you ever get to a point where you were kind of like, man, maybe I should have stayed with my age group?
You know what? I think now that I'm older, it's impacted, like the fact that I'm not with my age group has impacted me more than it did back then. back then I just accepted it. I just accepted that this is where I was, and I don't think I ever really questioned whether or not, it was the right place for me. Because at my school, the way it was set up was you basically were just going to another classroom. Like, all I did was walk up the hall and enter another classroom, and that's just where I was. That's just where I went from then on. And I didn't really, think to myself, oh my gosh, like, this is some new advanced thing. I just accepted it.
So for you, you didn't know any, which, see, again, you're making an argument that if I was to go testify in front of Congress or somebody in terms of us changing how we do school, you'd be a prime case for me in terms of kids don't know what they don't know. If they're going there based on what they can do, they'll just kind of, assimilate, and they'll rise to the challenge. That's what I'm hearing from you here. And it's like, okay, well, for me, I was just going to another class, and I could do the work. So, and I had a very similar experience with one of my daughters, because here in New Jersey, I don't know if it's the same in other places around the country. If you're not born by a certain date, like say, for example, if you're born in the October-November timeframe, you will have to wait another year before you start school, even regardless of your ability level. So my youngest daughter, my second daughter, was in that situation. She was born in October, and the school wanted to put her, and me and her mother, we fought like, no, put her in this grade now. Now let's trial this out. If she doesn't cut it with the work, then we'll put her back. But if she does, keep her there. And sure enough, she rose to the challenge as well. Another argument for moving kids by ability level instead of by age group. Now, I get the maturity thing. I get the, maybe you don't necessarily want to put, an 8-year-old with a 14-year-old, but if they can do it, they can do it. Did you ever get teased?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What? I mean, were you kind of like considered like either the run of the classroom, or what kind of teasing did you get? Because, I mean, again, I would think if you're keeping up with them with the work, now some of that teasing could have been out of jealousy, but if you're keeping up with them academic-wise, what were they teasing you about? Just the age?
Well, the thing is, part of the reason why I was skipped was because I was a little bit rowdy in classes. They were basically saying that I was bored and everything I was just sort of doing too quickly, and then I would just relax or laze around or even interrupt the teacher sometimes, like, oh, the other kids don't know the answer, but I do, so I'll give you the answer. So continuing that behavior sort of at the beginning of that time was an issue with my classmates, because maybe I just seemed a little obnoxious, maybe a little bit too self-confident. And then the other thing was just that maturity. I was a little bit giggly. I wanted to laugh and have fun. And some of these kids were just like, oh, who's this? This is like an actual toddler in our class. What is she doing?
Yeah, okay. I can kind of sort of see that based on how in general we're set up. So, but now, again, you brought up another point for me as an educator, because one of the things I'm constantly challenging my teachers to do is, all right, if you know you have that bright student in there, you know how that kid that's going to get finished in 10, 15 minutes, why don't you have some extra work or harder work prepared for that child? To me, that's kind of like a no-brainer. If I'm in the classroom and I have somebody like you in there that I know is going to finish, I got something for you, Cheyanne. Soon as you raise your hand and say, I'm finished, here's another one. So I don't quite understand, and I work with teachers every day that sit there, they have kids like you, and exactly what you described is what they do. You know what? I'm done, so I'm going to disrupt the class. Because I got two ends of the spectrum. One is very bright, I'm dumb, I'm done, I'm finished, so I'm going to disrupt the class. Or I got the one who can't do it, and they're going to disrupt the class. And either way, the class is being disrupted. So whether it's from the bright kid who's finished real quick and had nothing else to do and got bored, or it's from the kid who just don't get it and they ain't going to try to get it, so they're going to disrupt the class. Either way, I'm getting a classroom that's disrupted, rather than, okay, I'm going to prepare for that kid. But the other option would be just what your parents took. All right, look, we see our child have some gifts. We see our child is quick. And it's good that the school went along with that. So now, all right, we've done the skip thing. You're a couple grades ahead. At some point, did it kind of catch up and folks knew, well, that's Cheyanne. That's our little brain in it. Did folks kind of into school, or did you move around a little bit and they didn't get a chance to know? Or did you stay there long enough that they figure, oh, that's that kid that got skipped?
Well, yeah, so we were actually there between my third and sixth grades. So the teachers sort of knew who I was. And at some point, I think the other kids recognized, like, oh, that's Cheyanne, she skipped grades. And of course, I was telling everybody. But
that didn't help Cheyanne.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's great. I mean, I think more schools need to recognize it and do it. I mean, I don't think you have that many kids in that predicament. I wish we had a whole bunch of kids in that predicament. That's why, again, I would kind of advocate for, okay, let's put the kids in buckets based on what they can do. I mean, there are some kids that really, second or third grade, that's beyond that scope. And apparently you fell in that boat, which is good. So now we're going to fast forward to when it's time to graduate high school. How old were you when you graduated high school?
I was 16.
Okay, so you graduated high school at 16. Because the average, high school graduates 17, 18, in some instances maybe even 19 now. Some of the kids maybe just graduate now where you're turning 19.
Right.
So you graduated high school at 16. And now you're about to enter college, because now we're back into that age gap thing again.
Right.
And not only did you enter college, you entered a major university, Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of scary moments where it sort of dawned on me, like, oh my gosh, like, I think, because, at some points, like when you're in high school, I mean, I was younger than the other kids, but that didn't really affect me much because there are other kids my age within the school somewhere. But entering my freshman year of college at 16, there were maybe one or two other 16-year-olds, but everybody else was, 18, 19.
No, absolutely. Because again, most high school graduates usually graduate around 17, 18, or possibly 19, but just certainly 17, 18. So by the time we hit the college level, it's usually 18, 19 as a freshman, so forth and so on. So I think you're going to see very few, or I would imagine very few 16-year-olds there. But even though as on social media, I'm seeing more and more of, or at least they get posted now. It might not be more and more. It's just that they get posted. So every now and again, I see a kid that's 15 or 16 that's graduating high school and going on to college. A lot of the high schools have partnered with colleges now, so they do like a dual type program where kid is actually earning college credits in high school. So I'm seeing a lot of that as well. But now you're 16 years old on a major university, Carnegie Mellon, and not only the fact that you're 16, it's a major university, but you're in a serious major. You ain't in no like basket weaving courses.
Yeah, I'm in neuroscience.
Yeah, neuroscience. You're a 16. Now, for those of you just joining me, and I hope you've been with me since 6 and certainly since 7, I'm talking with an 18-year-old about to be 19 in September who started college at 16. Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, my favorite football teams. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing my Pittsburgh Steelers shirt right now. And
awesome.
So my favorite city in terms of football, Pittsburgh, beautiful city. I've been out there 2 or 3 times. And she's in Carnegie Mellon University, majoring in neuroscience. So the reason I'm making this and making a big deal about it is, one, A, it gives me hope that there is intelligent life out there. Secondly, it can be done. That's what I need the listening audience to be inspired and understand, that it can be done if you put the piece parts together. Now, certainly we have to be blessed by God to have the gift or the intellect, or the academic intellect to begin with. That piece, that's a leg up. But then you got the parents that's going to recognize it and then push it. But then you have a child who accepts it, recognizes it, and works. Not just sit there, because I laugh all the time. My wife's nephew was bright like that as a kid. And what he did in the beginning was he kind of slacked off. And when he was little, I asked him, I said, what's going on? All the teachers are telling us you're lazy. So he says, I'm lazy because I'm bright. And I said, I tell you what, you keep on being lazy, you won't be bright. So you can't. So in terms of, even when you have the gift or you're bright, you still have to work. You can't sit there and rest on your laurels just because you're bright. And that's what Keely was doing. He was telling me, I'm lazy because I'm bright. Okay, keep on with that philosophy. But so you can't have that. So all the piece parts have to be in place. And it sounds like for you, Cheyanne, all the piece parts were in place. And then not only were they in place, you're doing your part. One of the quotes that I heard over the last 2 weeks that I've been espousing over the last 2 weeks since I heard it is, your emancipation requires your participation. So all along the way, you've been participating.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
Oh, it leaped out at me 2 weeks ago in church, and I've been using it ever since. Your emancipation requires your participation. And you've been participating. And now you're, like I said, so what is your ultimate end goal? You're doing neuroscience. What is your, like that question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
So that's a difficult question for me to answer just because I have so many interests spreading across so many different disciplines. When I first actually came to Carnegie Mellon, I was a physics major. And I've done physics, chemistry, I did a little bit of civil engineering, and now I'm in neuroscience. And I just have all these interests, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what can I do in the future that sort of combines all of my interests? Because when I was little, I would ask my mom, can I be this? Can I be that? And she'd say, well, yeah, be all of them. And I believe that now. I believe that I can be all of them. I just got to figure out what I can do to be all of them.
That sounds like, I know your mom as well, and that sounds like an answer she'd give. That sounds just like her. That sounds just like something she'd say, be all of them. And she's absolutely right. There's no reason. And I'm not mad at folks who stick to one thing all their lives. I'm not mad at them. It just couldn't be me. Because like you were talking about, you get bored. I would be bored with that. So for me, whatever kind of like something that I want to do, I go out and do it. I mean, I've always kind of jumped around in terms of I've done corporate America, I've done military, I've done fraternal, I do my religious organizations, my spiritual beliefs, and so I do education. And people always say, well, why? Why do you? I mean, even the other day, I was telling your mom, whenever I put on LinkedIn that I was, working on the advisory board and doing the social media, somebody inboxed me on LinkedIn. How do you come from being a principal to doing social media and publishing? Well, it fits into my background. It's kind of, well, really what I wanted to say is because I want to, but because that's normally the response that I give people whenever I'm doing different and various things. I think life is too short. So I agree with your mom there. If you want to do it all, go for it all. There's no reason for you not to, especially if you have the capacity, the intellect, and the capability to do it. So now you're there. You're on Carnegie Mellon University. You're studying neuroscience. You're like 16, 17. What did your professors say when you came to, or at college level, they probably really don't care, but what was your professor's reaction?
I don't think most of them knew. I didn't tell them. But I think maybe one or two of my professors, noticed on the roster. They were like, "Oh, wow, you were born in 2000. That's crazy." And then
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I tell kids, I have underwear older than you. I really do. I have T-shirts and I have, I have suits. I have socks that's older than you are because I'm not in the clothes. So once I got it, it's there till it tear up. But but I tell my kids at the school all the time when they get to spouting off at us, yo, look, I got socks older than you. So so I'm sure whenever your professor look at the roster and they say date of birth, and it says 2000, I'm sure they turn their head a couple of times. So how has that been for you in terms of curriculum and assignments and work? How has that been for you at your age in college? Or is it just, hey, again, it's work is the work, no big deal for me?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it fits for me because I've been skipped for so long that this adjustment just feels in line with what I've already been doing.
And in addition to that now, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I'm still going to stay in that vein because, like, for me, I would hope those in the listening audience would see this as an inspiration. Like, wow, here's a child. And I get it. I know everybody is not the same. I get it. But it does happen. And that's what listening audience, I need you to understand. That I have someone here, a young lady, who's already ahead of where most of her peers are. And will probably stay ahead of them just based on the fact that she started ahead. But it can be done. And it's not as if Cheyanne came from this rosy, great environment. Because a lot of people think, okay, she must have been born with a silver spoon in her mouth. I know the family. Not the case. So where I'm going with that is Cheyanne and her family didn't make a bunch of excuses. because I work and deal with a lot of folks who make a whole lot of excuses. Oh, my father wasn't there. Okay. Oh, my mother. Okay. Oh, my mother's alcohol. Okay. And I'm not taking away or making light of any of that. But at the same time, because I tell my kids in the school, yes, your situation may be jacked up right now, but why don't you use that as fuel to make sure that you don't find yourself in that same situation as you get older, rather than sitting here making the excuse and the cycle continues. Oh, my mother was a teenage mother. Oh, my mother is a single mother. Oh, my. Okay, yeah, it is, but we still got to be able to. So it's not like Cheyanne came from this really great silver spoon, living in a mansion background. That's not it. It's not it. And at the same time, they didn't make a whole bunch of excuses. Oh, life is not fair. Oh, no, life is not fair. And once folks understand that, the better off they're going to be. Life is not fair. It just isn't. So if that's what you're expecting for life to be fair, it's not going to happen. But at the same time, we get the Cheyennes of the world who, regardless of the situation, still step up. And that's the inspiration and the motivation I need folks to get out of this interview this morning. So along with, as you heard me in the bio read about Cheyanne going to school, so forth and so on, she sits on the advisory board of Universal Right Publications. But not only does she sit on the advisory board, there's a wing under that of young adult books that Cheyanne is responsible for. Cheyanne, I want you to talk about that right now.
All right. So that wing, that imprint of Universal Right Publications is called the Cheyanne Book Series. And it's something that my mom sort of made for me because I have been writing since I was really small. Like, I actually went through some of my old notebooks. Like, my mom kept all this stuff. So I have one of my old notebooks from when I was maybe 4 or 5, writing a story about how my cat got kidnapped by a giant. And it just sort of reminded me, like, I've been writing my whole life. And my mom recognized that there are other children who had the ability to write, but maybe didn't know how to get it published. So under the Cheyanne Book Series, you know, children up until the age of maybe 19 or 20 can, you know, publish their own writing. And I think that makes it really unique and really interesting because, you know, if you're a kid or if you're the parent of a kid that can write, it can be hard to, you know, figure out where to start in getting that published. So that's what the Cheyanne Book Series aims to achieve. And
your role in that, I mean, because that's kind of like your division, am I correct?
Right.
That's your division in Universal Right. So youngsters, you're giving youngsters an opportunity, or for that matter, even if you're older, if you happen to write YA is young adult, for those of you in the listening audience, for adults who write YA, that would fall under your purview.
Well, we only publish kids, so even if an adult writes a YA novel, we probably wouldn't be able to publish them under this imprint, just because we're really focused on getting younger writers out there.
Okay, so, but either way, okay, so even for the younger writers, though, that falls under you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm building a story here, Cheyanne. In terms of you're going to school, you're doing neuroscience and all, and at the same time, you're also heading up a division in your mom's publishing company. Yeah. She says that like, okay, what's the big deal? No, it's a big deal because I'm telling you, I have kids that like, you know, and maybe that's what it is. My frame of reference is probably jaded only because of the population that I serve on a daily basis. Every now and again, I see a couple of kids in my school that has the light and the potential that we're talking about, but it's rare. Now, I did see it the other night when I went to my daughter's award ceremony at her school because she's doing medical as well. She is now a certified nursing assistant, CNA. She's certified nursing assistant. She's going into the medical field also. And so she's graduating high school next Friday. And so they had their medical arts one. And I saw a stage full of kids that were kind of like close to your genre. And then I was like, okay, there is intelligent life out of this. Because I know my frame of reference is a little bit jaded based on what I experience every day. Because if you were in my building, you would think there's no intelligent life out there. So whenever I get excited when I'm hearing a child that's doing so much, you know, doing their part, listening to the parent. Because another key to this thing is this whole notion of listening and following the lead of your parents, because so many children don't do that. They literally, if their parents say left, they go right. If their parents say up, they go down. If the parent says spin around, they stop spinning. So in other words, what I'm saying, regardless of what the parent says, you have children out there who are defiant and resistant, thinking they know it all at a young age, but I'm not getting that or feeling that from you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know my parents have been through a lot. I know that they are wise beyond my years, so I just try to take their advice and work with it.
So again, you're the average child, but you're not the average child. You're a child that any child can be if they honestly wanted and had the capacity and knew that they wanted it. Okay, so a child that's a go-getter or a self-starter could be where you are. But then there are so many others who aren't for whatever reason. And listening artists, I need you to understand, because, at some point in the interview, we do kind of mix in race. And it's not necessarily, I'm not against one race or the other, but I do know what the stereotypes are out there. The stereotypes are out there that African Americans, all of us, all we do is become teen moms, drunkards, alcoholics, in jail, or dead. That's kind of like the going stereotype, this, that, and the other. I need folks to understand that Cheyanne is an African American female. She's African American female, come from African American heritage, Jamaican heritage, Indian heritage, so forth and so on. So she is bucking or going against every stereotype that's out there concerning African American teenagers. I mean, you heard her age as we were just talking about. So she's going up against the stereotype of what African American teens do, as well as, like I said, I saw a stage full of kids the other night who was doing the same thing. So you're listening to your parents, you're doing your thing, you're starting out, because back to the universal right, I don't know if you understand it or not, but what your mom is setting you up for is understanding how to be an entrepreneur, how to run your own business.
Right.
And that's critical too, because I always tell kids all the time, everybody doesn't have to go to college. But at the same time, you have to do something, whether it's military, trade school, or start your own business, which is the best. I mean, out of all of them, you're going to have when I tell you, Cheyanne, you're going to have like the best of all worlds, like your mom just said, do it all. You're going to have it all, because you're going to have the entrepreneurial experience. You're going to have the neuroscience and all that experience. You're going to have the publishing company and the writing and all that. You're going to have so many options. It's not funny. And that's a good thing, as long as you keep grounded, keep level-headed, stay humble, don't get cocky, don't get like, I'm all that in a bag of chips. But you keep doing the thing. I mean, you're going to be you already are a force, but you're going to continue to be a force. Now, talk a little bit about, as being that age, what type of kid or student do you have to be? In other words, talk to me a little bit about, do you have to have organizational skills, time management? What do you have to be you? And I don't mean you, in other words, like if you were putting together a prototype, look, if you want to get to where I am, these are the things you're going to have to do. You have to be organized?
Yeah, you definitely have to be organized, because it can be a lot. Even just with school, balancing all those classes, balancing, entrance exams for college, applications for internships, it can be a lot. So being organized and managing your time well is really important. And I would suggest that everyone, if you don't have a calendar, if you don't use Google Calendars, if you don't use a planner, you should definitely get one, because it changed my life. I used to just sort of memorize schedules, and you forget things after a while. If you have a lot to do, then you're probably going to forget one thing or another. So I started doing that. Organization is really important. I think that something else that would be important would be just networking. If you go out into an environment where there are people who could possibly help you, it's good to talk to them. It's good to talk to people who are in a field that you're interested in, to see how they got there, what their journey was. And yeah, I think those are the most important things: networking, organization, and time management skills. So
now, in terms of what you just said, because I'm going to talk a little bit on that point, but have you reached out or talked to some neuroscientists?
Actually, I have.
I knew you were going to say yes, but I wanted to hear it anyway. I want the listening audience to hear it, and any youngsters who are listening. Yeah, so you go ahead, talk a little bit about that. You reached out to some neuroscientists. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually talked to one of our alumni from CMU, and he works with race cars for quadriplegic people. And I thought that was such an interesting mesh between engineering and neuroscience. Like, I didn't even know they had race cars for quadriplegic people, but it's really interesting, and it sort of opened my eyes to the possibilities for neuroscience, because one of the things that sort of threw me off a lot was that neuroscience is something that I'm interested in, but usually when people hear that, they automatically tell me, like, oh, okay, so you're going to go to medical school. And that sort of closed my eyes. I was like, oh, wait, that's all I can do with this degree? I thought that there would be more possibilities. But hearing from that guy, sort of made me realize that you can apply neuroscience to lots of things.
There are so many careers out there, it's ridiculous. I mean, we're very limited on what we know in terms of careers. I mean, even when we do career day, it's usually the standard doctor, teacher, lawyer type deal. But there are so many. If you go into the occupational guide or whatever it is, it's thick. I mean, it is like 2 or 3 or 4 dictionary thick and tiny print of all the different career choices out there. And as you just said, you didn't even realize that neuroscience connected with the race cars and the paraplegics, so forth and so on. But there's something key that you said that I said I wanted to touch on. There has never, ever in our history to date, and it may even go beyond where we are now, I'm sure it will, but in our history, it has never, ever been a better time to be a student, or a teacher for that matter, because the access to information. So when kids come to me and they share with me what they want to be, I tell them, okay, look, kid, all you have to do is go on Google. That thing called Google did not, and even though I'm a little bit older than your mom, that thing called Google, I don't think existed when she was little either. All right. We had encyclopedias and dictionaries and all that. We had to do the Dewey Decimal System at the library, where we had to go in the card catalog and the file and all that kind of stuff. You all at your access have Google, and all you have to do is keyword. And there is nothing you can keyword that Google doesn't bring something or someone up on. And I'm saying all that to say, whenever you all have an interest, all you have to do is Google what the interest is and ask for people who do it, and they give contact information. And I tell people all the time, there is nothing people like to do more than to talk about themselves. Nothing. Now, you, Cheyanne Rosier, you now contact me on Google or on internet or on email or whatever, and you say, I'm a student at Carnegie Mellon University. Oh, you did it when you were in high school. Whenever you were lower grade, they would still do it. I heard they love it even more. I'm a student. I'm a high school student. I'm interested in being whatever it is in neuroscience. Can you share a little information about how you got there and what you do? Trust me, they will get back to you. Matter of fact, some of them will say, well, if you're somewhere across the country, they'll say, well, we'll fly you out or we'll come out. People get so interested when somebody's interested in what they do that they will make ways for you all to network and connect, whether it be on Skype or FaceTime or whatever that other one is. I'm trying to think of the names of all these different ways that you can talk on video conference or whatever. Once you've connected with somebody and you're telling people that you want to be what they do, the barriers come down. And never in our history has it been a better time to do that. And I'm saying all that to say, for you in the listening audience, if you have an inkling or a clue of what it is that you want to be or do, get in touch with someone who's doing it. Cheyanne is absolutely right in terms of networking, and get in touch with people who are doing what it is that you want to do. Trust me on this one. They will talk to you. They will contact you. They will reach back out to you. So now, once, Cheyanne, you've done that, and like you said, the guy with the race car, so that sparked something even like a possible different path for you.
Right, because it was something I never thought of. So it had me thinking about ways I could apply neuroscience to maybe media, and even to this company, to Universal Right Publications. It just has so many applications, especially when you think of the psychology aspects of it. It just really opened my eyes and broadened my horizons.
Wow. And so you just never know where things will come. And like I said, and the opportunities are endless in 2019 as we're heading into 2020. But the opportunities are out there. It's just a matter of folks getting in the mindset and having the desire to do it. I posted something on Facebook this morning that said the dream does not work unless you do. Back to this participation and emancipation thing. The dream, I mean, it's to just sit down there and dream and think and want to be that, you know, that ain't gonna get you nowhere. You got to get out there and do. And that's what I'm feeling and getting from you that you're out there doing. So in terms of back to universal right, how does that, I mean, that's your mom's company. It's something that ultimately she can pass on to you, you know, in her older age or whenever we're not here. And that's something she can pass down. For many African Americans, and now more and more is happening but for many African Americans, historically, that has not been our case to have anything to pass down to our kids. How does that make you feel that possibly one day you will inherit universal right?
Well, I'm really grateful for it. I'm really grateful that my mom has taken the time to sort of make this, you know, opportunity for me and my brother. It means a lot to me because she talks about that a lot, you know, how a lot of Black families don't have something that they can pass on to their children, a legacy.
Correct.
And, yeah, and she said that it was always really important for her to have something to pass on for me and my brother. And it means a lot that she's putting this much work into something that will one day fall into our hands.
Absolutely. Now, if again, listening audience, if you've been listening over the last couple of weeks, I told you June was Universal Right Publication Month. All the Saturdays in June was one of the advisory board members that has been on the show talking about their work as well as Universal Right Publications. Universal Right Publications is a traditional publishing company. However, the focus it really is, and we're looking for academic work, scholarly work dealing with particularly race in terms of the diaspora. Internally, and it doesn't have to be just that. It's not just that, but that's where kind of like the focus is. The scope is way larger than that. But if you go to the website, UWP Publications or UWP.com or something, I have to pull it back up. But I know if you go to that wonderful thing I was just talking about called Google, and you put in Universal Right Publications, LLC, the website will come up. I think it's UWP. I think if you put in UWP, it'll come up as well because I was playing around with it the other day and it was popping up all over the place, whatever I put in there. But if you go into UWP, if you go into Universal Right Publications, LLC, it will come up and the description of the company is in there. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go ahead and do it so I can read it verbatim so I don't mess anything up there in terms of, so I'm typing that in as we speak, so that I can read to you the scope and the focus and everything. And like you just heard me and Cheyanne say, Cheyanne is responsible for the young adult area, the area where the children write. All right, here we go. The focus. UWP is an outlet for voices that transcend the traditional asserting agency across the diaspora, bridging gaps between mainstream publishing, educational, and scholastic works. The vision is UWP secures our legacy through a global lens of leaders, visionaries, and history makers, providing full-scale publishing, succession planning, and the sustainability of knowledge. Now, the mission for the UWP is UWP strives to enhance literacy to broaden worldviews through collective research using interdisciplinary theories with an emphasis on African-centered ideologies in a community of scholars. Now, see, I was saying it, I paraphrased it, but I wanted to read it verbatim. Cheyanne, I want to take you back to something you said early in the interview. Were you a reader as a child? Because this is the reading circle. Were you a reader as a child?
I was. I read a lot when I was little, and I still do. Not as much as I used to, but I still like to read.
Well, I always, reading and writing is connected. Usually my authors on the show were readers as kids. Every now and again, I'll get somebody that said, I didn't read or write as a kid. This came later in life. But most of the time, my guests were readers as children. And so was I. Either, they had a parent who really instilled it or was a role model for them or whatever. But generally, my folks that are authors that are guests on, generally they're readers. I am a firm believer that reading is the foundation of every other subject. That if you don't read, because reading is connected to comprehension, so forth and so on, that builds those skills, and you need the comprehension to do everything else. So that's why, for me, reading underpins everything else. Now, the mathematicians, they may argue with me, but that debate I'm willing to have with them, that, you know what, you can't do a word problem if you can't read. And a lot of times I see my children struggling in math because they throw word problems at them and they are clueless as to what the word problem is trying to get them to do. So, and it's because they don't read and comprehend. So clearly it makes a whole lot of sense to me, shall I say. It makes perfect sense to me that you read as a child and you wrote as a child and you're where you're at, because I'm also believe that it's connected to, where you wind up in life, that ability to read. Like you heard me say, when I was in second grade, I was going to the third grade class to read with them because I was ahead of my second graders, my little second grade peers. I was ahead of them. So they probably could have put me in the fourth grade if they really wanted to, but because reading has always been my thing. Since I was a kid, reading is my thing. So that's hence the reading circle. So, folks, if you've just joined me, I honestly hope you've been with me. I want you to be with me from 6 to 9. I asked for 3 hours on Saturday mornings, but if you can't be with me for 3, at least be with me during the interview hour at 7 o'clock when my guests come on. And this morning has been an inspirational morning for sure. All of my guests are inspiration, but yours takes it up a notch only because of your age and the fact that you entered high school at 12. You were skipped, earlier throughout the grade levels, the grammar school grade levels, and you entered college at 16. So now, when is your graduation day? When is your perspective? When do you expect to finish up? Or are you doing a 4-year program, a 5-year program, or what? What's your program?
Right now I'm in a 4-year program, so I am supposed to graduate in May of 2021, but I was thinking of maybe doing a combined bachelor's master's, so I'd be there for one more semester, but I'd graduate with both the bachelor's and a master's.
Wait a minute, one more semester or one more year?
I would be able to do it in one more semester.
Okay, wait, I'm going to ask this question again. One more year or one more semester? It's kind of like, okay, that's a no-brainer. One more semester, not one more year, one more semester. That's a no-brainer. And you'll come out with a master's and a bachelor's?
Yeah, it's a really interesting program they have over there.
You go, girl. I know, that's right. So, let me get this. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. One more semester, not one more year.
Yep.
Okay, so then I'm expecting you to come out with the master's and the bachelor's then. That's kind of like, okay, buy one, get one 50% off. Like, no, I don't want to. I want the full price. I want to buy 2 at full price. I don't want the 50% off. I don't want to buy one, get one free. One more semester. Wow, one more semester and you come out with the bachelor's and the master's. So then, because I know your mother's working on her doctorate, almost done with that, so I'm sure you're probably going to pursue the doctorate as well.
Yeah, that's the plan.
See, I love the way she says that. Like, yeah, like, why are you asking? Are you kidding me? Of course. No. I would ask some other people that they look at me like they had 3 heads. Like you must be crazy. But you're saying that like nonchalantly, like, yeah, like, but folks, that's been Cheyanne's attitude all the way through. That's why she's where she is. Her attitude has been that since she was a little girl. That's why she's where she is. And my hope is that there's someone listening out there that's saying, you know what? I heard some real good stuff on that show this morning. I'm going to put my foot in my child's butt and they're going to do what they need to do. And hope some child is saying, I heard that. And I said, you know what? If Cheyanne can do it, I can do it. That's my exact, because I need people. I told my kids yesterday in our morning meeting, I have like 400 kids in the auditorium at the same time every morning from 8:20 to 8:40. Or 8:35. And I told them, you will never, ever be able to say that Mr. Medley didn't try to encourage you to be better. Now, you'll be able to say a lot of things about Mr. Medley, but one thing you won't be able to say is he didn't try to make us better. And I'm saying all that to say this morning as we listen to this interview, whoever's listening to it, we're trying to make you better, and it can be done. And I have someone who was promoted below the zone in elementary school, started high school at 12, started college at 16. This is not somebody that I just see on my social media posts. This is somebody that I know. So whenever I see the social, because a lot of people, Cheyanne, when they see those social media posts, out of either jealousy or whatever, they kind of like, yeah, right, that ain't true. Somebody made that up. That's not a true story, this, that, and the other. No, it can happen. And this is a living testament and testimony of who I'm talking to this morning. I remember when the Cosby Show was on, somebody literally said, what? Black doctor and black lawyer married? That couldn't happen. And at the time, I knew a couple. Like, because on the Cosby Show, Cliff was the doctor, Claire was the lawyer. I knew a couple that was just the reverse, that the woman was the doctor and the man was the lawyer. It was one of my fraternity brothers. And when that statement was made, oh, that couldn't be real. Yes, it is, because I know somebody personally that they are in that exact same situation. So I'm saying all that to say, I know somebody personally, like some of these posts that I see on social media, that is doing what Cheyanne has done. Now, it's not a whole lot, but I'm telling you, Cheyanne is somebody that I know personally that has done it and is doing it. All right, so Cheyanne, we come down to but see, I tell you, it was painless, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said it was painless, right? Not like going to the dentist chair. It was like, we had a nice conversation, and believe it or not, we've come down to the end of the interview.
Oh, wow.
You see how quick it went? Because we were like, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Trust me, it goes by very quickly. But in any event, at this point in the interview, what we do is you have an opportunity to promote. Now, I don't know, let me say, you have books out there too, or you have a book that you wrote too?
Yeah, I have 3 currently out.
Okay, so let's talk very quickly about those 3 books, titles, and kind of like don't give them away because we do want people to purchase them too. But give me the titles of the books and all that kind of stuff. And then when we're done with that part of the conversation, I'll give you a chance to promote them and anything else you want to promote. So what are your 3 books?
The first one is called Bumblebee Longhorn Needle, and it's a children's book for younger children. It's a picture book, and it's sort of just about bullying and overcoming that and being your own person. The other 2 are a part of a sequel. There's one called Untamed, and then there's a sequel called Slayer. And they're sort of following these demon slayers. It's kind of more fantasy sci-fi. And I think those are really interesting too. And they have a moral. They're also about kind of finding where you belong in life. So I really think those are interesting too.
All right. So with the bullying book, you're tackling a very important issues that is going on in schools around the world and certainly in America. And that is, we have a whole system that we have to put kids' names into that's tagged to the state of New Jersey that we have to do investigations on once we identify it as bullying. So you're dealing with a topic that is a hot topic and has been a hot topic for a few years. So you're taking that on now as, again, from your age perspective. That's a children's book about, what's the name of that again?
It's called Bumblebee Longhorn Needle.
Bumblebee, say it again.
Bumblebee Longhorn Needle.
Okay, Bumblebee Longhorn Needle, or Needle.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's dealing with, now I would think, and maybe that's where you were from your perspective, and I'm glad I hope this didn't happen. You having been in classes where you were always kind of like the youngest one in the class, did you get bullied?
I did. Nothing too crazy. I've heard some really just insane stories about bullying in the past few years. But, just the kids picking on you, saying mean things about you, that definitely happened to me.
But it was nothing physical. Because, see, this is the other thing. People need to understand bullying doesn't always necessarily have to be physical. It can be verbal. And now with the advent of social media and the internet, it could be on the internet, cyberbullying. So bullying is big because kids really are committing suicide and killing themselves because they don't want to tell anybody. So they feel like, I would rather kill myself than tell somebody, or continue to deal with the bullying or being bullied. So it's a big issue. I see it now. I pulled it up on the website, Bumblebee Longhorn Needle. And so who did your illustrations for that? Did you do the illustrations too?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, no, I wouldn't have been surprised if you just said yes, but so I'm looking at it has a pink cover on there with I can see the bully in purple, and is that the little bee, the little bumblebee? I can see the expressions on their faces. Whoever did your cover did a nice job pictorially.
Yeah, it's got a cute little bumblebee, and he's happy. He's doing his own thing.
And I see the purple one, the purple bug. He kind of has a frown or a mean look on his face.
Yeah, he's looking at him like, who does he think he is, acting happy when I'm being mean to him?
Okay, all right now. So, and now I see Dragon. What is that, Dragon of Kingdom? Is that yours too?
Oh, that was published by another author.
So that's another author. Now, which ones were yours? I see the Bumblebee Longhorn Needle. Say the other 2 again.
Untamed and Slayer.
Oh, Untamed and Slayer. I see those 2 as well. Okay, now wait a minute. Slayer, I see this thing going on with the eye. What's up with that?
Slayer is sort of this cool demon slaying character, and he rides on a dragon. So that's the eye of his dragon.
Okay, so and then we have Untamed. Now, what is that on the cover? They look like scratch marks, but what is it?
Yeah, they're claw marks.
They are claw marks. Okay, so all right, hey, it's all right. We got that going on. Your covers are saying what they are. Good. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and the claw marks are sort of supposed to represent, in Untamed, there are two groups of beings. There are the tamed, and then there are these sort of supposedly wild and crazy creatures called the Untamed. And that claw mark is supposed to sort of represent how scary and feral people perceive the Untamed to be.
Okay, and these are YA books. These are all children's or either young adult books.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now comes the promotion time. You can say anything with the exception of the dollar amount. That they will get when they go to the website or if they talk to you or whatever. But at this point, Cheyanne, you can promote your books. That is Bumblebee, Longhorn Needle, Slayer, and Untamed. If you're going to be anywhere, if you give any speeches or talks or book signings or you want to promote Universal Right or whatever it is you want to promote, you can promote at this point. I'm going to turn the mic off, and it's yours for the next few minutes. Shout out. You can shout out anybody you want, your mom, your dad, your brother, anybody you want to shout out. The mic is yours.
All right. Well, I definitely want to shout out my family then. My mom and the CEO of Universal Right Publications, my dad, my brother. They've all been instrumental in getting me to where I am today. And I definitely want to make Universal Right Publications really a focus of this because they're just such an amazing company and they really want to help people get out there. They want to give people opportunities. And these 3 books are great for kids, especially Bumblebee, Longhorn Needle. I really want to make sure that if there are children out there, especially younger ones, 6, 7, 8, 9, it can be really hard to deal with bullying, especially being brave in the face of it. And especially, sometimes they don't get the ear they need. So Bumblebee, Longhorn Needle, I think, teaches children that sometimes you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. A lot of bullies, especially when their children have things going on at home, the best thing to do in that situation is to tell an adult, make sure that people know it's happening, and to not be scared to let people know that it's happening. But Bumblebee, Longhorn Needle is about being your own person, about not being afraid of what other people say about you, because what matters most is how you feel about yourself at the end of the day. And Untamed and Slayer, those are sort of more fun reads. If you're into fantasy, you'll probably like them. And I think that they're really some original ideas in there. So definitely check those out. And definitely go to universalrightpublications.com, uwpbooks.net or .com. And check out the selection of both young adult novels under the Cheyanne book series, or check out some of the more academic imprints. And, there's something for everybody there. So definitely check it out.
All right. So that was my next question. And what you caught it, well, I was going to say, where are they available? But you just hit it. At UW, that's U as in Universal, W as in Right, P as in publication. Or if you need some other words, umbrella. Let's see what we can do with UWP to make folks remember. Umbrella, a water, poster, or a picture, or anyway, the letters are UWP because the company is Universal Right Publications. So if you do uwpbooks.com, or either if you go to Google and put in Universal Right, the right, I want to make sure you're clear that we're not thinking we're saying RIGHT. We're talking about right as in writing. Universal Right, so it's the word universal, the word right, WRITE, books.com, uwpbooks.com. If you go to Google for the publishing company, it's Universal Right Publishing, LLC. Okay, so you can find it one way or the other. There are other books there. Go to the website, tour it, browse through it. If you see anything you want to order, feel free to order it. Any of the books there, I know they're also available on Amazon and all that, but you can go directly to the Universal Right Publications website, and you can order them from there. So, all right, Cheyanne, I had boy, your voice is changing everything. You got a woman voice now. I know last time I talked to you, I think you had a little girl voice. I think you got the woman voice now. She's definitely grown up. Voice has changed over in Carnegie Mellon University. We're extremely proud of you. As my mom can say, keep on keeping on.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark.
There you go. See, you got it. That wasn't that hard.
I was about to say Mr. Medley
I know
again.
you was. That's why I could tell the way the mark came out. But yeah, that's Mark is fine. I mean, because we're working together on the board. We're good. You're grown now. You're over 18. You good. So again, I'm proud of you. We're proud of you. Keep up the great work. You're kind of like again setting the trail and the path, and you're one that we're going to be seeing in magazines and newspapers and everywhere else for the great work. And you started at a young age, so that's fantastic. Just keep it going. Keep it going. Like I said, don't get cocky. Don't get to that point where you're like, yo, I'm all. No. Be grateful. Be humble. Be thankful, and just keep moving forward. All right.
All right, I will. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. We'll be in touch. This will be on my YouTube channel, as well as I'll send you an MP3 link. You could do what you want with both of them. Okay?
All right, awesome.
All right. All right. That rounds, or shall I say, brings to a close another edition of the Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. Inspirational interview, to say the least. The girl is 18, going to be 19 in September, and has already finished a couple years of college. Wow. Now, don't tell me it can't be done, because it can.